War Eagle Auburn family, welcome back to another edition of E2C Network Live, where we sit down, we talk about what's going on in the world of the Auburn family spectrum. We're always heavy on the sports here on this channel, but if it's orange and blue, it is what we do. And thank you for joining us here on this post-game reaction show. The Auburn Tigers fall in their final game on their Israel preseason trip to the national team of Israel, mind you, by the score of 85. Excuse me. I had that backwards, 95-86. I've been bouncing that back and forth in my head over a couple of times, trying to get the memorized correctly. But they do fall in their final game. A lot of thoughts and comments. I'm sure a lot of you guys have some good things, some bad things that we saw. We'll talk about in just a second after we get done with our intro part here. It's just some context of the game, kind of what we were up against, and some things maybe we learned to kind of set the table for this post-game reaction show. Obviously, I don't think anybody's super surprised by Auburn taking a loss to the national team, but based on the way we're playing it, sometimes it looked like we might sneak out of there with a win. But alas, we did not, and here we sit talking about a loss to the Israel national team. With that being said, let's do this and get this out of the way. If you can, if you haven't, please do make sure that you smash that like button as you come into the stream. If you're on social media, you can go ahead and do a retweet, share it into a Facebook group, share it on Facebook, all that good stuff. That helps us grow as a little family within the Auburn family, and invite a friend in if you can to join in on the live stream. And if you're watching on the replay, you can do the same thing. But right now, live or watching on the replay, this is our check-in period. Post where you're watching from, city, state, international, to say hello with a War Eagle, however you'd like to say hello. Hopefully we'll hear some of our friends from Israel. I know some of you guys were commenting on yesterday's live stream after the fact, and I know it's probably later over there now, but would love to hear some of our perspectives, friends from Israel, to share their thoughts on the Auburn Tigers. Also tonight, final bit of note for the intro, we do have our Booster Club with access to the call-in link tonight. Only they have the call-in link, so you guys can access that in the app. Call in if you'd like, and we'll take some of your comments and questions via that way. But for now, we are all about what you guys think, want to say, want to ask questions about in the comments live here. So let's get started with that. We got a lot of familiar faces. Devin, Cam, Leighton, Kevin. Good to see all of you guys. Kevin said, War Eagle. Kyle, I thought everyone played good for the Auburn Tigers basketball team, and we'll have a great team in November. No doubt that this is a team that is very talented and will have a great season. Question is, how good can they be? You saw some things got exposed by a professional team from the Israel national team, and obviously some things to work on, but still a very talented team and something to be very, very excited about. I walk away from this, I almost called it a tournament, this showcase, this just trip, being very excited about a lot of individuals, new and old. Walk away from this trip very excited about their performance together at times. I walk away not shocked by some of the issues that they still need to work through. So it's not that I walk away from this this showcase, this trip, with any revelations about this thing, about an individual or about the team. I walk away from this trip very satisfied with what happened, and also with what we have to look forward to going into this season. Leighton, this was a great experience, something that other colleges teams might not have. You have to tell they have a lot of team chemistry and pro ball level movement. So let's put that into context. Let's give credit where credit is due. Israel national team, you guys are outstanding. Was it? I'm forgetting how to pronounce his name. I'm going to butcher. It starts with an A. Somebody help me in the chat. The NBA guy was outstanding. They all were good. Just some of the most fundamental, fun stuff that you should be doing as a basketball player. None of this showy stuff that you see in the NBA these days. And I'm not saying that there's not good things about the NBA, but there's just something, especially like internationally, that there's a purity still to the game of basketball in terms of the fundamentals of valuing the backdoor cuts, ball movement, things like that. And Auburn actually does a lot of that still, especially with their valuing of defense. So that's one of the things that I think Auburn kind of relates to a lot of its fan base and a lot of its older fan base. I throw myself into that, with their valuing of those kind of old school tactile elements of the game that seem to be lost in a more flashy age. Devin says they thought we played well against a professional team. Absolutely. Take away half of the fouls maybe, and we could have won. Flanagan went back to last year. Flanagan, I disagree. I don't think you can make that statement off of just one game, Cam. I think that's not fair to him, just personally. Everybody's due a bad game because, frankly, what happened to Chance Westry in this game? We were all singing his praises, and I haven't seen anybody, question him yet. I'm not trying to pick on you, Cam, but one thing I would wish we would do as Auburn fans is not be so quick to go and say, "Oh, there's the old ways again." Let's wait till we get into the season. Let's wait and see what happens when we're actually playing legit ball, like the stuff that matters. And then we can make assessments whether he's back or if it's just a bad game or not. Because I saw a lot of things from Alan Flanagan that I really liked in the entirety of these games. Good to see you, Dusty. Good effort today. Good experience for the team for the trip. Interesting officiating in the fourth quarter. One of the things that you've got to, I guess, and I found myself wrestling with just a little bit was the fact that this is a little bit of a different game in terms of the types of fouls they call, how often they call them, what they're not calling, what they allow. This whole unsportsmanlike thing with the kind of, I don't want this to sound mean towards Israel and international basketball, but it kind of seems like the Americas play a little bit more of a stronger and more tougher style of basketball. And there's a little bit of that kind of goes on. It's kind of like back to the idea of inside of a dog pile in football. What happens in the pile stays in the pile unless you get caught. I'm not advocating for it. I'm not saying it's, that I wouldn't turn a blind eye in the favor of the Auburn Tigers. But it's kind of one of those things. There's a lot of that goes on. It's got to be blatant for you to call it. Apparently, there may be a little bit less lenient about some of those things. Denny Avahada, is that how you say? I can't. Denny, I'll call him, is the NBA player that got drafted in the top 10 in 2020, and he's still only 21. Those dunks and passes were crazy. He played all 82 games for the Wizards this year and started. Listen, you hear that somebody's in part of the NBA, and you're like, if you don't know who they are, I'm not an NBA fan, so I wouldn't know. You're kind of like, well, I mean, they can just say that it's just a title. It could be, Jared Harper's a NBA player, but he's on a two-way thing, so you hardly ever see him, but you still attach NBA to him, and it sounds good. He's good. That guy can play some basketball, and it was a humongous thing for the Tigers to take out that guy when they did. That was their last chance of pulling this out. The difference is they had other playmakers that immediately came out there. I forget the guy's name, the ball handler, had the buzz cut, just very good ball player. What was the end score? The end score was 95-86. And it really was, less than that in terms of, or more than that, because we hit a 3 at the very end there. That doesn't really count for much, Devin says, felt like the whistles were a little friendly towards Israel. Well, they can be, right? They can be, because they're over there. If you thought we were going to get some home court advantage or just some friendly calls, that was not the place to be getting that. I listen. Israel won this game. What is the difference between this game for me, if you kind of want to cut to the chase on things, is their ability to move and share the ball with each other the way they have. And that comes from playing together a lot in Auburn. This team is still learning that process. And also the foul situation. Yes, they were very quick to whistle sometimes, but the problem is we put ourselves in this position. You've been playing 3 games with these refs, with this style of play. That's enough to kind of learn, hey, I can do these certain things. I can't do these certain things. And I really need to be careful of that. And it's hard to break those habits of a different style of ball that you play in the States so quickly. But 3 games is enough to kind of get that. And if you knew who you were playing, they are who they thought they were. They are who we thought they were, is the old statement. You want to make sure that you don't give them the opportunity to exploit, especially as professionals. Good to see you, Thomas. Let's see. Y'all realize we just hung with a professional team until the 4th minute of the game in unfamiliar territory. We're out. There's a lot to be happy about with this. And I'm not just trying to sugarcoat things, because there's a lot of things that need to be cleaned up. Any grandiose statements about how we we are just horrible shooting are completely false. And again, let's not make overarching statements simply because we saw some things that we didn't like that maybe carried over. Let's see what happens when we get to fall. There is so we got August, September, October. So you've got essentially 2.5 months until we play ball. That's 2.5 months to work on the things they learned here. 2.5 months to continue to work on their shots, continue to work on their lineups, their rotations, their passing, their ball movement. A lot of time. Leighton says the defense played great in the first half, but the second half, they definitely got tired. And they even made an interesting statement about this for Israel, is that they thought that if this game continued at the pace it was going, at the way it was going in that last 5 minutes, that it was going to switch into Auburn's favor, especially with losing Denny. I can't pronounce his last name, the NBA player. So not early, but early enough in the fourth quarter, the way they did. And that might have shifted things over to Auburn because they had so many players. They were switching in and out. Their legs might have been caught back up, or they got their second wind. Didn't work out in that favor, but definitely that situation could have been there potentially. Run it back in Neville and got us by 10. Yeah, probably. I agree with you, Cam. I do. If this is in a SEC arena, we are talking about a different story because it's a different type of game. But that's the nature of you being somewhere, not just in a different locale. When you go to Arkansas or Kentucky, you're not going to get the calls. You just know that. But when you're definitely going to Israel, you're definitely not going to get those calls. That's just even more removed from any kind of semblance of normalcy, any familiarity that you have with refs, the style of ball that's played, all that kind of stuff. You feel like the team's chemistry has improved. The new guys are fitting right into the team. Janai Broom definitely has just kind of found his way into this team, and I'm loving the heck out of it. I am going to be the biggest Janai Broom fan for the rest of the year. I love me a big man that's got a good hook shot. And he kind of did one in this game, but he's just got a lot of different talents and skills. Kind of had that mid-range jumper going, kind of like Jabari did for a little bit. And I'm excited. I'm excited to have him as part of this team, which is funny, right? Because everybody was so excited about Juwan Traore. Good reason. We saw reason why, especially in game 2. But Janai has consistently each game shown you why he was the guy right behind Walker Kessler all year, whether that be in scoring, in defense. Deny Broom. Don't you come into his house. He is the bomb. Leighton says, I knew that the rules were different in other countries for basketball, but the actual ball is very different, less pronounced grooves and smoother overall. They showed that in the broadcast yesterday. Yes, a little bit. And the other thing, too, is not just the style of ball that they're playing. It's this team has played together a lot. And Auburn this is their third game playing together as a unit. Now, some of these guys play sometimes with the national team. Some of them don't. So there is some discrepancy there. But when you're being led by a professional in the NBA, that gives you a lot of advantage. Still got to, still what it is. Not just the Auburn fouls, but in international ball, apparently it's a foul to have your socks too high to look at someone or blink wrong. It did feel like that at times, did it not, Thomas? I agree with you. I agree that I found myself being a bit frustrated with the ticky-tack, what we would call ticky-tack in the States. But that's what they do here, and that's how they play it, and that's how they call it. So I know what I'm saying to you, but the team can either whine about it, get frustrated about it, throw their hands up and exclaim about it, or they can, after 3 games, understand this is how it's played, this is how it's called, and work around it. And there were some adjustments, but not enough. The only reason they won is because they had the best player, 2 guys in the NBA. They're stronger in the pros. No, I don't think that's the only reason. No, I mean, I think I will say if you take those 2 players away, I could find myself being very confident that Auburn would have won this game, just the way they stayed with them until, the last quarter of the game, maybe a little bit longer than a quarter of the game. But I think when you say that, you also deny how good a lot of these other players who aren't NBA guys are. These are professionals on a different level in terms of not being in the NBA, but playing internationally. It's a good team. So what you need to do as a takeaway as an Auburn fan is this. Understand what just happened. They played in game one a team they should have run the floor with, and they did. In game two, they played a better talented team that they eventually should have pulled away for, and they absolutely did. In this game, there was not really anybody expecting Auburn to win, and if they did, it'd be a very close one. And this team hung with them, and almost at times started to kind of stretch out a little bit, and it just kind of overcame the experience that you get with professionals is just unmatched on the college level, no matter the talent. So talent doesn't always win you a game. Basketball, well played, well-rounded, well understood basketball is what wins game. Free throws wins championships. Was it 42 or something today? Oh my goodness, that was frustrating to watch. You think it's better than the SEC reffing? Maybe so. Maybe so. They actually called some travels, which they do not need. Be a fair point, Leighton. So, hey, listen, we can grumble about their ticky-tackness, but they actually called traveling a lot. They were very on top of it as well, with people taking that step back when they get ready to make a move. And if they were across the line, they'd call that too, because that happens a lot more than you think it does. Oh, Devin, I am so happy that the level it's Bama fans, that's coming, right? But the level of pettiness that the Kentucky fans are having with this trip is just mind-blowing. This dude on Twitter tried to say that somehow Kentucky fans, more of them traveling to the Bahamas, which they're starting their thing right now, I think similar to what we're doing, just the Bahamas, is equivalent, meaning like if they get more people to the Bahamas than we did to Israel, that's somehow a win for them. Would you want to look at the distance traveled? Would you want to look at the, different flights that you'd have to take? Would you want to look at the price? Then you want to compare that? My goodness, they are just Kentucky fans don't know what to do the fact that they are no longer top dog. There's several of us. Auburn's not the top dog, top tiger, top cat, whatever. You got Auburn, Kentucky, Arkansas, maybe Tennessee. It's okay, Kentucky fans. It'll be all right. You had your fun. That wasn't meant to last forever. Ehud, this was good for Auburn. You need to understand that Israel is practicing for the European Championship in September. Well, if they're practicing and this was their practice, they did very well. So they're probably going to do very good. They're in good form. As for refs, the refs in Israel are just bad. Ehud, do you have familiarity with that? Are you over there, or, how do you know that? I'm just curious because I would love to know if you've got some personal experience with that. We as SEC fans, complain about the SEC all the time, but we are a little biased. It's nice to hear that it can be a little bit frustrating for other people in other parts of the country as well for their reffing. Actually like the officiating today compared to a lot of what we see in the States. Honestly, pros in the USA celebrate a little too much. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. Starting lineup. Oh, Gracie wants to talk about starting lineups. Well, we can do that a little bit. I was thinking about doing another live stream in maybe a day or so, but I don't know yet. So this seems like a conversation we could have then, but we could have it now. So in the chat window, what I'd like to hear from you, similar to what Gracie just did, first game coming up, who is your starting five based on what you saw? Gracie says Green, Johnson, Katie, Yuan Traore, Broom, and Cardwell. The only thing that I take issue with is your lineup is too big. Bruce likes to run not a small, but a smaller than that lineup most of the time to start off a game, especially. So, unfortunately, I think you are going to, not unfortunately, but just in terms of your prediction, you're going to see a Zep Jasper. You're going to see maybe a Chance Westry. You're going to see one of those smaller mid guards. If Chris Moore continues to compete the way he does, y'all need to pay attention to Chris Moore. Man had a game today. What did I say last live stream? It was nice to see all of these new faces at the top of Auburn's stat sheet, at the top of everything, the ones we're talking about. And of course, they're new. We're going to talk about them, right? But how nice was it to see? Because I wanted this. I said we wanted to see somebody step up that was a veteran in the sense that they've been here for more than a year. Wendell Green did that. Chris Moore did that at times today. Jalen Williams did that at times, but I think Wendell Green was far and away. That was nice to see. Wendell Green, I hope this is his year. He can take that next step in his game because he can be a deadly player if he continues that progression that we're seeing already. Leighton says, I came into the game not expecting to win. Having a starter level NBA player and a top Euro League player is a difference maker, and the superior ball movement they have is huge. Oh, man, that thing was zipping around all over the place. I mean, that's the stuff that if you are a true basketball player, a true fan of the game, not just if you are a fan of the game, not the sport. What do I mean by that? The sport is what it is. It's the hoopla, it's the dunks. We all get excited. The game is the cerebral chess match, the understanding, the thinking 1-2 steps ahead that happens. If you understand the game, not the sport, you appreciate that type of stuff. And I found myself almost cheering for Israel at times because it was so solid. Our best players are our bigs. Gracie, well, then the only thing that I would say, just because your best players are your bigs doesn't mean they give you the best opportunity to win. It doesn't. The lineup is what determines, because if your best players are your bigs and you just, let's just say all 5 players that are best for you, the bigs, you put them all in there, what's going to happen? Guards are going to run circles around you. You're going to get tired because they don't run as fast. So you can't operate off of that. You have to figure out who is the best to get us started off right, and who comes in as the 6th man, especially the person that's first in. That was Wendell Green last year. That gives you that edge the minute they step onto the court after that first sub. So I think Wendell, based off what I saw, deserves maybe a start. I think Yawan probably deserves a start. I think Janai obviously deserves a start. And I agree with you that Dylan Cardwell deserves a start. I don't know if that's what's best for the team. Either Janai or Dylan, but that extra guard spot, I'm still kind of out there. Katie's the best option, I think, but still kind of iffy about that. The starting lineup for the guards this year is very hard to predict. They all bring different strengths to the table. They absolutely do. And isn't it nice that we have a plethora of guards that give you so much of a variety of things? If we have that lineup, Williams and Akingbola off the bench, Akingbola would get more playing time this season if this was the lineup. Again, like I'm a big fan of Akingbola. I love the guy. Kind of love his story. I always kind of have a heart and a passion for the guys that don't see a lot of the playing time. And he's definitely one of those over his time at Auburn that has had that happen to him. I would love to see the guy. Based off what I've seen, I haven't seen in 3 games enough to show me that he's taken that extra step that deserves that extra playing time. I could be wrong. It's 3 games. Like, we got to take all of this with a grain of salt. But the goal is not to get the big out there just because they're bigs and just because they haven't been played. The goal is to get the best ones out there to play. The rotation with Donaldson at point is interesting. It is. He started the first game and it was really hot and kind of faded into the background a lot here in the last 2 games, which I found very interesting. So that's another one I don't know what to make of yet. I don't know that we're going to see a quote unquote starting lineup until about midway, a true starting lineup until about midway to the non-conference game, because that's really what it is. You know what you have in your big guys, right? We saw Janai Broome do what he does. You can't deny that he deserves to start. You can make a case for Dylan Cardwell. You can make a case for Yawan. You can make a case for Jalen Williams. All of these guys deserve to be out. The question is which one of the guards, maybe outside of Wendell, gives you the best option to start off with. A lot of you aren't going to like this because for some reason you get on the Alan Flanagan hate train, but because of his defense, most of the time, not all the time, that's the reason he starts. And he has a propensity sometimes to just hit this light bulb and then his shooting just returns and he's like dominant. So if you had that element to that, he's an easy person to start. Even most of you, not most of you, I shouldn't say, the more vocal people of you don't like that. It's the thing that frustrates. Okay, I'm gonna get off that. I was gonna get on a soapbox again, and I'm not gonna do it. All right, I think the guards we could see a D-line type of rotation with all 4 or 5 games getting a good amount of minutes, with Green getting the most. For some reason, I'm not understanding that, Leighton. It's slipping past me, but I think with all the guards, we could see a D-line type of rotation. Oh, like they rotate them in. Yeah, I know. I think you're going to see a rotation everywhere. Auburn is blessed with a lot of talent, and unless you have someone like a Jabari Smith and a Walker Kessler that dictate they have to be out there, they have to be. You're just going to see a lot of rotation. So Janai, I think, is starting to move that way. I think Wendell has moved the needle in that way. But really, I'm looking for consistency across the board, and the main one is Janai for me from this early games here. But still, many months of preparation to watch, to listen, to coach them up, to practice, and figure it out from there. All right, what else stuck out to you? Any other players from this game? We talked about the officiating a little bit. We talked about their outstanding NBA professional players. We talked about Janai and Wendell, how they've had great games in this one. Anybody else stuck out to you that had great moments or things that, what specifically did you see that Auburn needs to work on? Is that if there's something specific, is it simply just being better at distance shooting? I mean, I think that's an easy one to go to, but you probably have a point there. If there's something that they're missing, what would that be for you if you had something to kind of point out? But across all 3 of these games, like I said, I feel like we walk away very pleased with what we saw for the most part, because the issues really didn't rear their ugly heads until that last section of the third quarter and into the fourth quarter, which we started managing. You said Yuan. Yes, Yuan, I think, is another guy that sticks out. The question I have for him is, it seemed like that first game was great for him. First half of that second game was great, and I think majority of the second game, and kind of faded off here a little bit. Again, I don't have the stats in front of me because they're not providing those as readily. I think Auburn is posting them a little bit, and I haven't pulled them up just because they were taking some time to get those posted out there. Chance lose point guard handling skills at times. You're saying Chance loses his point guard skills? Not understanding that one. Leighton, I wish they would let the plays develop more sometimes than just chucking up threes, not going to say names. Well, we all know who you're talking about. We're talking about Wendell. We're talking about KD. I mean, I'll say names. I mean, they know. We know. Here's the problem that you have. More often than not, I shouldn't say more often than not, a third of the time, which is a pretty good percentage for distance shooting, they're making those shots. The reason they're allowed to and not being sat when it happens, because they've shown the ability to do that, and they've shown the ability to be able to make those happen in key moments. So if you're frustrated with that, I understand that, but there's a reason that is allowed to happen. They do not start if that is a problem. It may seem like it's a problem to us. Obviously, Coach Pearl does not say it. In a strictly basketball game understanding sense, would it be better for them to do that? Absolutely, it would be. But we're not the coach. Cardwell shedding the weight should improve his game. Adding a spot shooter to this lineup would be a nice addition. Well, there's not going to be anybody added, I don't think. I mean, there's one spot left, but it's a little late to be adding someone to the mix. So I wouldn't get your hopes up about that unless you're just saying this is the general statement. Look, the obvious glaring thing is the offensive shooting at times, not the driving, not the dunking, not the close range stuff. We're used to having those sharpshooters, and those guys have moved off. Those guys have, either the ones that were doing that have had lackluster at times. It will come with time. This is a whole different ball game over there in Israel. Let's see what happens when they get back before we say that we need another spot shooter. But, you may have a point. Berman, you mean? Okay. Berman might be here's the frustrating thing about this. This guy was already playing in, I think it was called the Maccabean games. over there in Israel before his team got there and I think they won the championship. And yet again, he gets poised, probably ready to play significantly in this tournament, showcase, whatever you want to call it. And he gets hurt again. Poor Leo Berman, the guy that used to be a walk-on, earns his time, earns his spot, and just can't stay healthy. I'm so frustrated for him because I want to see this dude succeed because I think he is. It's a good point. I think he is a good piece to this puzzle that has been missing. And if we can get him out there, if we can get some other guys shooting well alongside him, you've seen what the bigs can do. You've seen what Wendell Green can do with his point guard skills. You've seen what Trey Donaldson's capable of at point guard as well. Those 2 and 3 spots, if we can get those rolling, maybe with the addition of a Berman, it's not a bad point. I just hate that we have not gotten to see him do the things that we know he's capable of doing because he is a great shooter, and we would very much like to see him out there a little bit more often than we have. I'm trying to pull up real quick the stats here on Twitter if they have posted them because I wanted to be able to tell you guys some of them. The one stat that I know is the most important from this game is 40% or 40 points at free throws is what it was. Or maybe it wasn't points. It was 40 free throw shots. That will kill you, even if they don't make them all. Even if they make half of them, that means you're fouling out of the game a lot. All right, so here are your final stats on the game. Wendell Green with 19 points, 3 assists. Janai Broome, 18 points, 11 rebounds, 3 blocks. Zep Jasper, a lot of people like to kind of just forget about him. My man made some shots in this game. Not known for being a great shooter, but if we're worried about having spot shooters, we need to also be crediting the people that do make improvements in those areas that haven't shown that. Zep Jasper, 11 points, 60% from the field. He may not shoot a lot, but what he's showing in the early part of the season is when he does shoot, he's taking shots he's confident he's going to make. Katie Johnson, 11 points, 2 rebounds, 1 steal. Can I call out in this game specifically? I love the Wendell Green, Katie Johnson just smothering at times of their guards up there. And they just ate up one guy late in the game to go steal a ball and get a basket out of it. What you get with Katie Johnson, an emotional, reckless at times, but reckless in a good way sometimes, just tenacious little guard. It seems like every time he does something good, he does something bad. Every time he does something bad, he does something good. But what he provides to the team intrinsically, you cannot devalue that. Especially when you look at things like defense. He gets so fired up about stealing. He will hit that ground. We had a drill in basketball called the Superman drill, where our coach would basically, shoot a basket, and as soon as the ball came through, he would just throw the ball down the court, and we had to chase after it, and you had to dive for it like a Superman across the floor. Probably don't do that anymore in this day and age. But that was a good drill. Katie Johnson would have loved that drill. So those are your main scorers tonight. Wendell Green, Janai Broome, Zep Jasper, Katie Johnson are your main scorers. And like we've been talking about throughout this live stream, Wendell Green, Janai Broome are your guys I think that have been the most consistent across all of the games. I know Wendell didn't have as many points in some of the other games, but I think he showed in some areas that he's deserving to be a starter. So if I want to talk about sure things, that's the 2 places I look for sure starters coming out of this. Leighton says, I love our team this year, not to jump to conclusion, but this team might be better than last year's team. Uh-oh, don't do that to yourself. But not off of star factor, but a balanced team. I think you will see a more balanced team because let's talk about it from this respect. Okay, so this year, it's reversed on you guys' screen. So last year, you had great talent, but you were powered by Walker Kessler and Jabari Smith. Undeniable. First-round draft picks, can't say. But now you've removed that. Yeah, Yawan's expected to be that. Maybe Chance Westry, Janai Broome's expected to be that too as well. But that's been removed from the equation. So there will be more balance, but will the balance that's risen up from the guys that have been here be enough to match the talent that's come in and equal what Walker Kessler and Jabari Smith brought to the table? I don't know. Only time will tell. But I'm excited for what this season may hold for us. All right, here's what we're going to do. Keep your comments and questions coming. We're not going away just yet, but just a couple reminders. First of all, a reminder, we're going live Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern time, as we always have done since the dawn of time. It is a open mic night. Anybody can call in your comments, your questions again, or what we will take part in. And we're expecting a big call from someone with a somewhat controversial topic. He says he's going to call in. So we're going to try to hold that one at the end of it. So if you don't want to miss that, then be part of that. But just know that we could have an interesting debate happening on that show if they decide to show up. It's a little bit of a call out if you're watching. So 8 o'clock, be there. We'll be talking about everything football, basketball, anything is fair game to talk about on those shows. Also, check out the links in the description for ways you can help support our content. Become a Booster Club member. $1 a month is all it takes with extra perks at different levels. Or you can just be a Booster Club or a channel member here for $1 a month. Hit the join button. And there's other ways that you can support us listed in the description so much. We are not done this week as well with the live show. We're probably going to have one more live stream about football coming up later in the week as well. And hopefully going to have another video announcing a little fun thing that we're going to be doing on the channel. So if you're a subscriber, you're already setting yourself up for success with that. But if you're not, you need to subscribe. You don't want to miss out. That may be coming up very, very, very soon. By the way, I just want to give a shout out to everybody too. We hit 2,500 subscribers the last week or so. I usually wait a bit to kind of celebrate that because what happens is either YouTube removes a bunch of fake accounts at time at big milestones for some reason, or somebody sees that you hit that marker and wants to be the little troll that knocked you back down to 2,499. Never fails. So I always wait like a week to see we got to that point and beyond. So we are beyond that point, and that is a huge thanks to all of you guys that have subscribed, that have been part of this little family within the Auburn family. All right. Any other comments or questions? We got spammed by one of those interesting sites here. I had to handle them while I was doing all of that. That got a little bit interesting. So if you don't have any more final questions or comments, I'll kind of wrap us up here. Game 1. Did what we were supposed to do, just rolled over a U20 team. Game 2, we were able to get challenged a little more, overcome some adversity in that game, and handle that situation. This game, we met the challenge, got hit in the mouth, responded several times, and still got beat, but we were in this game. Obviously, Auburn's biggest areas of, its strengths are its defense, its ability to run and move the ball very quickly. It's inbounding defense. The same things that we know are the strengths are there. We've seen some improvements in some shooting areas, but still maybe not enough. But let's give some time to wait and see what happens with that. Janai Broom, most consistent out of everybody of the newcomers. Wendell Green, the most consistent out of all of the veterans. The other newcomers, Yawan Traore, got off to a hot start and looked just outstanding. Trey Donaldson had a great first game. Chance Westry had kind of some great moments mixed in and out throughout of this. Dylan Cardwell, Jalen Williams, Katie Johnson, all had great moments in this. There's really not, and Chris Moore, here I am preaching about not forgetting him. Chris Moore looks ready to make you remember his name this year because he has been forgotten about a little bit. So if you walk away from this trip disappointed, I can't help you. If you walk away from this trip encouraged and excited about what you see, I can help you because I agree with you. It's a great team. It's going to be fun to watch and fun to grow as they've been growing together on this trip and everything that they've been going through on and off the court. You're ready for basketball season and football. Well, the mini basketball season that we've had here is ending now. So you can take a little bit of a reprieve from that because we are going to be doing tons of football content here from this point forward. I mean, we're going to be mixing in some things from time to time, but obviously we know that the majority of people's mind shifts completely to football and all that stuff. So that's here, but it has been fun getting back on board with Bruce Pearl and just reconnecting with them, even virtually, if we're not there. Following them more closely, talking about them, the energy that basketball brings to the Auburn fan base, the memes, all that stuff. It just makes me more excited for October when hopefully we do tip off at Tumors. It makes me more excited for when we do maybe like an open practice. It makes me more excited for those exhibition games. And it sure as heck makes me more excited for the season that is coming. I hope you all are excited. And it's been fun catching up with you on these post-game shows, and we'll have some more for football coming up very soon. Till then, though, make sure you join us this Wednesday, 8 p.m. for our live color show. You can call in or just take part in the chat as you've been doing in this live stream, and some other things coming up. So be subscribed if you haven't. Thank you guys for being the best little family within the Auburn family. Till we talk to you again. War Eagle.